and welcome to this week's episode of Hawk Talk. I'm Susanna Moberg. You'll see we are missing Seth again this week. He is out of town visiting some friends. We are excited to have him back and to hear about his adventures down in warm Tennessee. But we are here this week at the DSU Heritage Foundation house where Seth and I both work, and we're so excited to show you a little bit of this side of our job rather than just in the studio. We're here this morning with some special guests, and I'll let them take a moment to introduce themselves, what they do here at DSU.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Lorraine Fader, and I am the band director, and I teach all the brass instruments and music, instrumental music education courses.
And I'm Morgan Hudson-Biller. I'm a music composite ed major here at DSU.
So first off, I have a few questions for you, Dr. Fader. You've been working with Dr. Grabowski, his PR class, to develop kind of your spring concert. What is that like, that collaboration between the two of you, and how did that get started between the band and his class?
I think just from Eric and I chatting one day, and I offered an idea, and he offered an idea, and we said, let's work together. And it's good for his class because they get to see a real life application to the things that he's teaching them, like writing a press release or writing a program, and how you lay things out and what you choose and what order you put things in. So it's been quite interesting. It does take going back and forth. We were back and forth about 10 times last night, making sure it was exactly right on a press release. But it's been really helpful for me because they have ideas that I don't have, and then the collaboration helps them too.
So Morgan, did you as a member of the band do anything with this collaboration, or was it mostly just the instructors were collaborating?
I think it was just the instructors that were collaborating.
Just reap the benefits, right, of the collaboration. So I have the questions today were developed by Dr. Grabowski's class. So I will proceed through his questions for you, and I've added a few of my own along the way too, so we'll get them incorporated. But the first question for them is, what is the DSU concert band? Who plays and performs in the concert band? And what are your roles within the band?
I'm the conductor, of course, and I choose the music, but I do ask for ideas, like is there a favorite piece that's current that you'd like me to look for an arrangement of, and that sort of thing. I usually come up with a theme for the concert, especially in the springtime, so that I can gather music that fits a theme and makes it easier to flow from one piece to another. Would you like to talk about the students in the band, where they're from, what group?
Yeah, it's not just music majors. We have so many other majors that are included. Like Caitlin, and Vance is not even part of DSU, but he still helps participate because the more help we can get, the better, and it makes us sound so much better also. We also have Andy, who's graduating soon, correct? Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's just a lot more than just music kids that are there. It's those kids that have participated in high school and still want to play music and continue on with that while getting other benefits of having a different major.
And what an awesome opportunity for them to still be able to be involved in music past high school.
Of course. I think also the benefit to those students is that you make a new set of friends. You tend to collaborate with your own people in your own classes, but you don't get out to the rest of the university. In this way, you get to know new people and have new adventures. We go on tours and things like that they might not have the opportunity otherwise.
So the next question from his class is, when and where is the spring concert, and is there a cost to attend?
We are having it in Beck Auditorium this time. It'll be a nice warm environment, I think, and it's on Thursday, April 11th at 7 p.m. That's next Thursday. And there is no cost at all to anybody with a DSU ID. So faculty, staff, students all get in for free. We are asking for a $5 little bit of donation to help us with our big trip that we're planning for next semester or next year.
So what is the next question? What is the significance of this annual spring concert for the DSU band?
Well, I think there's significance in every concert. This one just kind of shows more about like America and what we represent, and like goes more into depth about what songs used to be played and some more modern songs for people to understand also. So if we have an older audience, they're actually able to be like, can bring them back to their past days and remembering that more about what America is about, and the songs and tributes to all that we've done so far through all years and centuries. And I think that's the significance of this concert, at least, is just to celebrate that we are America and we are free.
That's right. Our theme is celebrating a number of historical events, like the landing on the moon and the end of World War I and birth and deaths of famous people, that sort of thing. So we have a tie into history, as Morgan says.
And Morgan, you just got back from New York yesterday on a choir trip. What is it like for you? You're in band, you're in jazz band, you're in choir, you're in chamber choir. Is it hard for you to balance all of those different musical groups that you're doing, plus being an RA, plus being a student, plus everything you do outside of school? Is it hard to balance all of those things?
Yes. I think that's the only way to explain it. It is a lot, but I feel like I'm getting as much as I can to grow my experience and skills with music. I mean, I don't believe I'll be doing this much ever again because it was a lot. It's definitely a lot, and as a music major, I have to practice also all the time on my free time while maintaining my grades for other classes that actually include homework and classwork. But all in all, I wouldn't change this semester. Like, it was overwhelming. There's a few crying periods, but I don't think I would change it because I think I've grown so much more because I had so much going on. And it's better than having all this free time and just sitting in my room. I was actually out and experiencing the world. Like, New York, super crazy. I don't think I'll ever go there again, but it was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool to see, like, all these huge buildings compared to North Dakota. So I thought that was a very great experience, and singing in Carnegie Hall. Like, I don't think anything will ever top that.
Dr. Fader, are there any things that you and the other music faculty do? You know, students like Morgan and a lot of the students in the group are in multiple groups at the university. So is there anything you and the music faculty do to try and balance students and the workload that they have in between those groups?
Yes, I worry sometimes that they do get overloaded, but I know that this is an opportunity for them, so we try to make sure that we have a lot of give and take. If the theater people need to go practice a little bit early from band, I let them, and then when we have our dress rehearsal, I need them to come to that. So we do our best to support all the different activities that they're in.
You talked a little bit about this earlier, but the next question from Dr. Grabowski's class is, Celebrate is the theme of this concert. Can you tell us about the upcoming pieces that you'll be playing in the concert?
Well, one of the pieces that Morgan mentioned is a piece called Echoes from the Battlefield, and we're hoping to have some veterans there to help us celebrate. These are tunes from World War I that a lot of people don't recognize anymore, but the older folks will hopefully. There's one they have to whistle along, and another piece is America the Beautiful. Then we're celebrating the moon landing with a piece called Sea of Tranquility, where there's a pause in the music and you'll hear President Kennedy's voice and the actual moment of landing on the moon. So it's really a neat piece. And then, oh yes, one of the special pieces is Dickinson's Press March, which was written for our own newspaper by someone whose parents went to DSU, and he wanted to contribute this. So it's a really neat march. We took it on tour. Everybody enjoyed it. And then a Golden Star March is a very different kind of march, a funeral march for the death and procession of Theodore Roosevelt, and it was dedicated to his wife, Edith, by Sousa himself, John Philip Sousa, who's the most famous march writer of all time.
My final question from the group for both of you today can answer this, but since you're celebrating history through music at this concert, how does music in general fuse past and present for performers and audiences alike?
Well, I think music has always been a part of people's life. You listen to it on the radio, birds sing every day. Like, you're constantly listening to it and just hearing the gradual changes of our music for, say, those older people. They've heard so much changing from classical all the way to hip hop and pop. Like, there's such big changes. And with the band pieces, they kind of show it at a slower pace that people can fully grasp how much has changed instead of these big jumps from, oh, this one has laptops beeping in the background and then guitars singing in the background. But like with the pieces that we're doing, it's kind of showing more of a gradual change from tempo and to how much is actually going on within the piece. With older pieces, you don't hear as much going on. It's more of a consistent beat and is not as intricate as some of these newer pieces. So I think it's really cool.
That's something we're going to talk a little bit about in the concert as well, showing the students who are going to be coming in one of my classes, music appreciation class will be there. And I want them to feel a little bit more like, as Morgan says, that transition from a slower paced life, the times we're talking about in World War I where airplanes were just starting to fly, and here we are today. You know, then they went to the moon, 40, 50 years later. It's such a fast transition now. President Kennedy, in his speech that we'll see a little bit of, talked about information doubles every 12 years, and now it doubles every 8 months or so. So I think Morgan's hit the nail on the head as far as the music and how it shows that change. And also when we pick the music, I try to have a piece for the older folks, a piece for the younger folks, you know, something fun, something serious, so that there's a range of challenges and also a range of interests.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. Just a reminder that this Spring Celebrate concert is Thursday, April 11th at 7 o'clock p.m. in Beck Auditorium. And we thank Dr. Fader and Morgan for joining us today. And we will be right back with another interview after this. Welcome back to this episode of Hawk Talk. We have two guests today from my home department, Language and Literature, and one from my actual home, but I'll let you make that connection yourself when we do our introductions. With that, I'll have you both introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do here at DSU.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brittany Hirth, and I'm an assistant professor in language and literature, and I specifically teach the American literature courses in addition to composition.
And I'm Kevin Moberg, and I'm a professor in the departments of teacher education and language and literature, and I teach writing and literature and methods of teaching English.
You're both fairly new to the department. You are not fairly new to DSU, but could you both take a moment before we start and just explain your journey here to DSU and how you got to this role in the department?
Well, I was teaching for a number of years in Connecticut and Rhode Island while I was finishing my PhD. And once I finished my PhD, I went onto the job market, and DSU had an opening for an assistant professor of literature. And I immediately loved the demographics of the school as I read about it. And after visiting the school, I knew I wanted to work here.
Our family moved here to be closer to our family, who are from Western North Dakota, and I came here to be the coordinator of the Writing Center. And after a few years of doing that, I was invited to join the faculty. So I started in the Department of Teacher Education, and then as I was invited to teach more English classes, I took over a dual appointment to do departments.
So you're here today to talk to us a little bit about the Albers Humanities Festival. So maybe let's start with just what is the event and what are your roles in planning the event?
Well, Mr. Moberg and I are co-chairing a student panel on dystopian and apocalyptic literature, and Mr. Moberg has the entire history in front of him, so I'm going to let him talk about the history of the festival.
Sure. Perfect. So some may know the name Everett Albers, and he was a faculty member at Dickinson State University for a long time, and he happened to be the first chair of the North Dakota Humanities Council while it was still housed on the campus of Dickinson State University before it moved to Bismarck. And after his death, in his honor, some faculty and staff at DSU started the Albers Humanities Institute and Festival. And since then, we've been having usually a springtime festival of events, humanities and sometimes other disciplines like law and business and education and science. We'll have a collection of presentations and activities organized around a theme. So for example, 2 years ago, we had a series of events about Star Wars in honor of its 40th anniversary. And before that, a festival with 1960s as a theme. And before that, the American Outlaw as a theme. And this year's theme is Post-Apocalypse Now. And all the activities and presentations will have to do with our interest in imagining worlds beyond our own. What if we tried to invent a perfect society and failed? Or what if disaster hit? How would we move on?
You talked briefly about this, but Post-Apocalypse Now, how did you come up with that theme? Or were there other themes that you thought of before you decided on this one as the final theme?
Yeah, this was the most popular theme, but we had others in the mix. I can't remember now. There was an entire list, but we all debated. There's probably about 20 different options, and we all debated on email amongst the faculty and the committee members for Albers as to which one it should be. And heavily, we all agreed that this was really relevant and resonant right now.
So there are a few days, it's April 11th and 12th are the 2 days of the event, and there are a few events happening within those days. So let's do a little day-by-day breakdown, and we'll go over what each of the events are and the significance of each of those events. So first off, it starts on Thursday at 4:00 p.m. with a student panel. Can you talk a little bit about how you chose the students for that panel, how you chose the questions for those, and really just what we can expect from that time?
Well, these are all students that Mr. Moberg and I share. So they're former students of mine and some current students of yours. And basically, we met with them and we went over all of the different themes that we could possibly talk about. We reviewed their interests, and then from there, we sort of just came together and figured out some questions that we could ask.
I say this because I'm on the student panel. I was just curious if there was anything I should know about why I got picked for this or anything about that. Do you have anything to add about the student panel?
Sure, and also I'll talk about that evening then. So this is Thursday, April 11th, the student panel. And if you come, you can bring your questions, or you can just listen to the students talk about themes in dystopian and post-apocalyptic literature, which sounds fancy, but it's all around us. Many of the most popular books and TV shows and movies that we watch are us imagining what would life be like if we tried to perfect life, but things didn't quite go correctly. So some of the biggest hits, like the Handmaid's Tale TV show based on the great novel, are popular because we like to investigate those things. So the student panelists will be experts on the books and TV shows and movies that they've watched and enjoyed, the Walking Dead graphic novels and so on. And that ties in with our Thursday evening event, which is a disaster preparedness and disaster response presentation by, you could imagine what would happen if zombies infested Dickinson, or more practically, what if we had a flood or a tornado or something? What systems do we have in place to deal with apocalyptic events? And we'll be hearing from firefighters and police officers and city government officials who will talk to us about what to do if we actually had an apocalyptic event.
Then on Friday at 4:00 is our next event. So does either one of you want to tell us a little bit about Friday's events?
That would be the keynote presentation, and I have a little blurb that's been put together for me by Dr. Gavin Hurley from University of Providence. So his keynote presentation is going to be about how a specific kind of horror fiction, what he calls thinking horror, places readers or viewers into a particular reflective or contemplative frame of mind. He explains how reflection and contemplation are two different modes of thinking and gives examples of each from popular media. Of course, other genres can do this as well. So he explains that unlike other genres, horror evokes fear, which sparks a kind of reflective or contemplative urgency. He's also going to mention how thinking horror stylistically integrates moments of silence, which provides space for readers or viewers to reflect or contemplate within the fiction itself. Overall, these elements, when blended into apocalyptic or post-apocalypse fiction, can help direct readers or viewers towards thoughtful attitudes that see apocalypse or post-apocalypse scenarios as a potentially realistic future, which is terrifying.
Yes, Dr. Hirth, I'm in one of her classes, her studies in fiction class, and she mentioned the other day that our keynote speaker studies horror, and I just cannot imagine that. I think I wouldn't be able to study it because it would scare me too much, and then I would have to stop, and it wouldn't be beneficial to anyone. But I'm excited to hear more and attend that presentation. Then again, Friday night at 7 is our last event of the conference. Either one of you want to speak about that?
Yeah, well, if you don't like reading about horror, you might not want to go to that event. although you might, because it's a showing of a horror classic, Night of the Living Dead. And it's an opportunity for people to enjoy a classic of the genre, but also to participate in a costume contest. We're encouraging attendees to dress as maybe their favorite post-apocalyptic character or a character from a TV show who would be recognizable, a zombie, something that will impress. So you can enjoy the movie and also be eligible for a prize because it's a costume contest. We're going to look for the most impressive attendees' costumes.
Are there any last comments either one of you would like to make about the festival coming up?
Well, it's open to the public, and that's one of the great things about it is it brings the university and the public together in a common space, and it brings faculty and students together with the public in a common space. The idea is to celebrate the humanities as an academic field that's part of our daily life as well. So I think people, no matter which of the events they attend, they're going to get that theme that you might learn something you didn't know about it before, but you'll also realize how much the humanities are part of our daily life, and that honors the history of Everett Albers and the festival that's named after him.
Well, thank you both very much for joining us today. Just a reminder that the Albers Humanity Festival is taking place April 11th and 12th. Events happen at 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock p.m. both nights in Thompson Auditorium? In Murphy Hall. Thank you so much, both of you again, for joining us, and we will be right back with a recap after this. Welcome back to the recap that I do at the end of the episode. We have a few sports that were away this past weekend and a few things to look ahead to, in the weekend to come. So men's and women's track was in Laurel, Montana last weekend. There's no team score, but we do have a few individual scores of how they did. Lacey Wade took second place in pole vault, and Blade Miller took second place in shot put. Other than that, lots of third place, fourth place finishes for the kids on that team. And we're excited to hear more about track in the future when we have a few more track kids on the show. This next weekend, they're heading to Vermilion, South Dakota for the South Dakota Challenge meet. So they'll be there this next weekend, and we're looking forward to hearing those results. Men's and women's golf were in Billings. No team results from that event. And they head on April 7th to Rapid City, South Dakota for the Arrowhead Country Club. So we're excited for them that they're back out. The sun is shining, probably a little more pleasant for them than when it's snowing and cold outside. Softball had a few games at Valley City that they lost, and a few JV games this past weekend in Glendive. And so we had a few softball players on the show last week, a few weeks ago, and we're excited to continue seeing how their season goes. On April 6th and 7th, they have some home games against Viterbo, and those will be taking place at the North Softball Complex. For more information about those games, you can visit dsubluehawks.com to see their schedule and their roster, or of course follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and we'll be keeping you updated on those games and scores as well. The DSU Chamber Choir got back last night from New York City from singing in Carnegie Hall, and I was with them on the trip. It was an amazing experience, so much fun. Hopefully we had Morgan on the show today. She talked briefly about it. Hopefully we can get another choir kid on to talk about that awesome experience that we had. We're excited we get a recording of the songs, and we will maybe share those on the page so everyone can hear what we got to do while we were there. This next weekend is the Brave the Shave event that the Theodore Roosevelt Honors Leadership Program puts on. That's happening this Saturday in one of the gyms, and I can't remember at this moment which one it is. But for more information, you can definitely call the TR office. That number is 701-483-2114. We had a few people on the show today talking about the upcoming Celebrate Band Concert, which is taking place April 11th at 7 o'clock p.m. in Beck Auditorium. We'll talk more about that next week as a reminder. And we also had Dr. Moberg, or Mr. Moberg, and he's my dad, so it was fun to have him on the show today, and Dr. Brittany Hirth, and they were here to talk to us about the Albers Humanities Festival, and I have their little poster right here, and that takes place April 11th and 12th as well, over in Murphy Hall in Thompson Auditorium. Both the concert and the Humanities Festival are free and open to the public. We encourage you to check out those events. Until next week, Hawks are up.